Hello everyone. So a few months ago there was a huge change in the WordPress world. Block themes and full site editing were officially introduced, and these are exciting features, but there's also a ton of uncertainty and confusion surrounding them, especially in terms of how to approach them as a WordPress developer if you've always used WordPress as more of a content management system instead of a click and drag page builder or page designer tool. In this video, I want to help make sense of this entire situation and also share my own personal approach to these new tools in WordPress. Before we get started, this video is actually just an excerpt from the brand new 6-hour chapter all about block themes that I just added to my full WordPress development course. The full course is now over 40 hours long, and if you enjoyed this video, you might enjoy the full course. In the description for this video, you'll find this link that has heavily discounted coupons for all of my courses, and the full WordPress course is this orange one right here. Anyways, without further ado, let's get started with the actual video, and let's make sense of block themes and full site editing. Hello everyone. In this lesson, we're starting an entirely new chapter about something in WordPress called full site editing. If this is your first time hearing about full site editing, that's okay. Right now, our goal is to begin to answer the questions of number 1, what in the world is full site editing? And number 2, what in the world is a block theme? Well, I think instead of jumping right into a technical explanation, I think it's more intuitive to just look at a sneak peek preview of the finished product of what we're going to be building together in this chapter. So right now on screen, this used to be the fictional university theme, the traditional theme with PHP templates. However, off camera, I've recreated it as a block theme, and it now supports full site editing. I realize we don't know what those terms mean yet, but right now, let me walk you through some of the new features that this approach enables or supports. And don't worry that I built this off camera. The entire point of this chapter is for you and I to rebuild this together step by step. But right now, let's get a big picture overview of why it's interesting or useful in the first place. So, for example, in the past, with a traditional theme, how would you change the homepage content? Maybe you'd have to edit the actual PHP template files, or maybe you created an actual page in WordPress named homepage. And then you could edit the WYSIWYG main body content. But even doing that is not super intuitive for the end user. So when you have a block theme instead of a traditional theme that supports full site editing, watch how easy this is. You would just go into your dashboard, under Appearance, click Editor. By default, it's going to pull up the front page or home page template, and now you can just start clicking to edit. So imagine if I wanted to change this content, I can just click right here. If I want to get rid of the exclamation or add 3, whatever, I can change this subheadline. I can change this. Let me put it back. You get the idea. If I want this button to be medium or small or large, if I want to change the color for the button, just click on it. Use this button to slide out the right-hand sidebar. Maybe I want it to be light orange or blue. Let's go with light orange instead of dark orange. So I click Save. Well, let me actually add a change here so we can see it on the front end. So if I had 3 dots, click Save, refresh. Perfect. We see the light orange button and the new text. Also down below on the home page, you can see we've got our upcoming events from our blogs and then a slideshow. So what if I wanted the slideshow to sit above this events and blogs area? Well, you can just scroll down in the editor. Here is the slideshow area. Just use the editor screen arrow to move that up. Click Save. Back on the front end. Cool. So now you've got the welcome banner, slideshow, and then the events in our blogs. I think you're already starting to see the picture. So the idea is that changes that in the past you might have had to make in a theme file, now you can just make directly from the WordPress editor, hence the name full site editing. Let's say I'm not happy with these changes that I just made. They are sort of weird changes. So you can just go back, click on templates here, Here's the front page template. I can just click this icon and click Clear Customizations, and it's going to go back to its default appearance and settings. Cool. Let's walk through another example. So let's go to an individual blog post screen or a single blog post screen. So if I visit a blog post, imagine I want to add to the very bottom of this template file. So right below the footer, right about here. What if I wanted a slideshow to sit here, or that upcoming events and blog posts area? What if I wanted that to sit here? Well, in the past, you would have no choice. You would need to go into single.php, right, and edit the PHP template file. But with a block theme, check this out. We just go into the template screen here, look for the single post template. Let's click on that to begin editing it. Because there's nothing truly dynamic or customizable about the header, the footer, or just the body content, I just have placeholder blocks here. We'll learn more about this approach of mine later on. But imagine right before the footer, I wanted to add something. So I could just click this. Let me begin to search for slideshow. So I'll insert my custom slideshow block. Just for this example, let's create a slideshow with 2 slides, just so we don't spend too much time. So I'll add my first slide with a heading, and I'll say, "The sky is blue." Let me make that a medium-sized heading. Below that, we can add a clickable button. We won't worry about where it's actually linking to, but let's just say learn more. Now, if we click on the slide itself, so this area with the black background, notice on the right-hand sidebar, we can choose an image. So you can choose one of your existing images, or you can upload a new one. I'll just click a random one. Cool. Let's add slide number 2. So you click on the overall gray area. That's the parent slideshow as a whole. If I click on that, you can see there's a button down here to add a second slide. So I'll just say slide number 2. We can leave that as a large headline. Let's add a button that says amazing. And let's make that button orange instead of default blue. Let's add a background image for the slide. Let's go with this building. So if I click save and then go refresh this individual blog post screen, cool. So there is the blog post content, and then down at the bottom, there is our slideshow with our 2 slides. The point here is that we modified this single blog post template without ever having to go into our text editor. And we did so in a way that's still consistent with the design language and branding of our theme. Right? These are the exact same slideshow styles that you would have seen on the homepage. For one final example, I want to show you how we can really get creative here. So imagine we were the end user or owner of this site and not a web developer. And imagine we wanted to create a landing page. So maybe just an interesting banner image area, a bit of text, and then no footer and no navigation links. Just a landing page, right? Well, check this out. If we go into WordPress, let me go back to the overall dashboard. Let's create a new page. So add new page. I'll name this page example landing page. Now here's the cool part. Under page template, I'm going to choose something called Brad's blank canvas. Now the name doesn't matter. I just made this name up. But if I select that, well, it's essentially giving me a blank slate. So check this out. If we add a paragraph that just says lorem ipsum and publish this page and then view it, cool. So there's no header, there's no footer, there's just our little bit of content. However, due to the nature of a block theme and the way that I've set up my specific block theme, we can use the power of composition, right? And just start adding whichever blocks we want. So let me get rid of lorem ipsum. Imagine if you did want the navigation up at the top. Well, I have a block called header. But if you don't want that, you don't have to include it for this specific page. So maybe we just want a banner area. So I named it homepage banner. I probably should have named it something more generic like just banner. But I can click that. Let me choose a background image. How about this dog? Let me add a heading. Landing page. Below that, we could even add a button. Learn more, make it dark orange. And then maybe we don't even want the universal site footer at the bottom of this page. Maybe we just want upcoming events and blogs or any other blog. So maybe if I just search for events and blogs, add that. If I click update and go refresh, cool. It was that easy to create a completely custom template, right? There's no site-wide navigation at the top. There's no footer at the bottom. We just created a landing page, or you could have added any content you wanted. So over the last 5 or 10 minutes, we've seen that you could very easily edit the home page, right? We learned how to edit this content and rearrange this content. We've edited the single blog post template, and we just set up a custom landing page template. And we did all of this without digging into our text editor. So I am fully aware we have not answered the technical question of what is full site editing or what is a block theme, right? We haven't answered those questions from a technical or code perspective, but hopefully we've answered them from the why would you even bother perspective, right? Hopefully you've seen how the features that they enable are interesting or cool, or you could see how they'd be useful for your clients or your end users. From here, in our very next lesson, we are going to begin answering the questions from a technical perspective. So we'll actually start to look at the folder structure, the files, the code, so on and so forth. This should be a lot of fun. I'm excited to jump into this journey with you. So let's keep things rolling, and I will see you in the next lesson. Hello, everyone. In this lesson, we're going to learn how to create a block theme. And more importantly, we're going to fully understand what exactly a block theme truly is. I think hands-on experience is way more valuable than listening to technical explanations, so let's do this. Right now, I want you to follow along with me. Let's just go create a brand new theme folder. So on your computer, navigate to wherever your local WordPress installation lives. So basically, you're looking for the directory that has folders such as WP Content, WP Admin. So we would dig into WP Content, dig into the Themes folder. And in this folder, let's just together right now create a brand new folder. You can name it whatever you want. But just so you and I are on the same page, why don't we name the new folder maybe fictional-block-theme. Okay, now go ahead and open this folder up with your text editor. Okay, now just like a traditional theme, we want to begin by having a certain file named, so new file, style.css, right? Some things never change. And even if we don't want to include any CSS in this file, we just include a comment, so /*, and then we say theme name : and then just make up a name. Let's call it Fictional University Block Theme. Close out the comment, so */. That's all we need for now. We can save this file. And just like with a traditional theme, we need to have another file named index.php. Now, interestingly enough, we don't need to do anything in this file. We can leave it completely blank. I believe in the future, WordPress is even considering removing this requirement to even have this file at all. But as of today, we still need this file. Okay, finally, let's create a folder within our theme folder, so new folder, and it needs to be named templates. So this exact name, templates. In this new subfolder of templates, let's create a new file and name it index.html. Now, in this HTML file, just for a quick test, just say hello or hey or hi, just for a proof of concept. Cool. So we save that. Now back in WordPress, let's go activate this theme. So in the admin dashboard, under appearance, from the theme selection screen, there it is, Fictional University Block Theme. Just click activate. And if I refresh the front end, cool. Now we just see the word hello. So now that we've created this new empty theme with just the word hello, let's actually talk about what in the world is supposed to be going on in this HTML file. Because the file ends in a .html extension, you might assume that you're allowed to have HTML in the file. So maybe you want for example, a paragraph element, so p tag, and say, hello there, exclamation. However, if I save this, we just broke the theme. Let me explain. Technically, yes, that shows up here. but it's not a valid block theme, and the whole point of block themes and full site editing has just been destroyed by us including top-level HTML like this. Let me show you what I mean. If you go into the admin and click on Editor under the Appearance menu, so Editor, and you can see we're trying to edit the index template. Well, this block has encountered an error and cannot be previewed. So to get back to the question of what in the world is supposed to live in this file, you cannot include HTML directly like this. Instead, everything within this file needs to be a block. That way, this editing screen can treat it just like a regular WordPress post or page, right? Everything is comprised of different blocks. So, if we wanted to include a paragraph, what would we have to do? You would have to have an HTML comment like this, WP:paragraph. Then you could have an HTML opening and closing and say, hello there, this is a paragraph. And then below that, close the HTML comment. So now it would be /WP:paragraph. So if I give that a save, the front end still works, there it is, only now the editing screen will actually work. So if I refresh this screen, perfect. WordPress and the block editor can actually make sense of what was in our HTML template file. So the block editor can definitely handle us making changes to that existing paragraph. So maybe we change it to just be hello. And then if we press enter, this is the exact, or at least 99.9% the same interface you're used to working with when creating posts and pages. So maybe I want to add a heading level 3. So you could type / and choose heading, or if you prefer to use this icon right about here, or this icon up here, right? However you like to use the block editor, but let me just add a heading level 3. So I'll change it to H3. Welcome to our site. Now that I've made a change to the template from within the editor instead of my text editor, let's actually click Save. And then click Save again. Now if we look at the front end and refresh, we see those changes reflected right here. However, it's not as if WordPress just automatically updated our text editor file. So you can see index.html did not get updated with a heading level 3 here. At this point, I think the easiest way to make sense of what's going on is to actually look at the database that's powering our WordPress. So if you're using the local by Flywheel software for your website, you can just click on to database and then click open up adminer. So adminer will look something like this. Now let's just go look in our posts table. So WP_posts. We don't want to look at the structure. We want to look at the actual data. So select data and then just order them or go to the actual last or final page. So I'll click on last, scroll down to the very bottom. So this is the most recent post that we created or edited. And if you click on edit just so we can view the content here, notice the post_content field. So this is where the actual body content for the post entity lives. Well, there it is. Let me zoom in a little bit, but there's the paragraph, and below it, there is the heading level 3. So this is the exact code that would live in your template file. In other words, WordPress is storing the copy of it here because we as the end user or the client, or the non-web developer person that's working with the website, we made our changes within the web browser. So WordPress is saving or storing the template that we edited into the database. But now if we want to export this into our actual true template file, well, you have a couple of options. Number one, you could just grab this value and just copy and paste it into your clipboard right out of the database. Or another option, from the editor screen, you can click these 3 dots, click export right about here. That's going to download a zip. And if you look inside that zip file, you'll see template files with the code that you created from the editor. In my case, I'm just going to grab the value right from the database, and then I could place that into my actual true HTML template file here. So now if I save this, let me show you the whole point of having this in the actual file. So if we save that and then go back into the editor, and let's say we make a mistake. So we add a new paragraph and it's just nonsense, and we accidentally deleted all of the other content, and then we clicked save and we refreshed and we realized, oh no, we don't like this. we liked the starter version that was from our actual template file. Well, that's the good news. This actual file always serves as sort of a safe home base that you can revert back to. So in the admin screen, you can click on the top left icon, go into templates. Now you do sometimes need to manually refresh this screen. So if I refresh, cool. This blue icon here for the index template indicates that you've made customizations from within your browser. But if we click these three icons here, we can revert or clear those customizations, right? In other words, it's going to use the actual HTML hard drive file. So we can click clear customizations, and now our website is back to just using the exact code from our file. So you can see that there's some give and take, there's interaction between the editor and our text editor, right? We didn't have to manually type out this comment for a WordPress heading level 3 block. We used the click and drag, point and click, what you see is what you get editor to create this, but then we just pasted it into our template file. Now at this point, if you're anything like me, you're probably 101% disgusted at the thought of having to use this approach for your entire theme, right? You probably don't want to be limited and restricted to only using WordPress core blocks like this and never getting to actually write your own custom HTML structure, right? What if you don't want to write HTML the way that WordPress does? What if you want to write your own HTML? Well, don't worry, we'll address that concern a bit later in the lesson. I promise we will. But for right now, I want to keep showing you how a block theme works at its most basic level. So in our templates folder, we just have the one file, index.html. Now, just like in a traditional theme that would have index.php, that serves as sort of the universal fallback file. However, if you wanted to control what an individual single blog post URL looks like, well, in a traditional theme, you would have a file named single.php, right? Or if you wanted to control what a page instead of a post looked like, you'd have a file named page.php. Well, the good news is that from what I've seen, at least 99% of the time, that exact same naming system carries over into block themes. In other words, you just include those same named files in your templates folder. So if we wanted to control what an individual blog post screen looks like, in our templates folder, we would just create a file named single, but instead of PHP, it's single.html. So in this file, imagine we just want to copy over a paragraph and we'll say, this is a single blog post template screen. Let's give that a save and test it out. So if we refresh the home page, we still see that template. However, if we go into our dashboard and maybe just go find a blog post to get the URL, right? So just on any of your posts, click the view link when you hover over one. Perfect. This is the URL for a single post, and there we see it. This is a single blog post template screen. And now all of your knowledge of a traditional theme carries over, right? So you would have files in this templates folder called archive.html, page.html. And it also works with custom post types, right? So just like you would have single dash and then the name of your custom post type, well, that exact same naming system works here in the templates folder. So the good news is a lot of your knowledge gets recycled here. It's not as if we're starting from scratch. Okay, now before we go any further, and especially now that we've looked at the single blog post screen, we really need to ask ourselves, well, what if we don't want just hard-coded static template code? What if we want code or content that's actually dynamic for this specific blog post, right? How do you actually load the title of this blog post and the body content for this blog post? Right? How do you do anything dynamic without PHP if we can only use HTML comments and blocks? Let's give ourselves a super specific and concrete goal right now. So let's imagine we want to add the title of the current single blog post you're viewing right here. Now, we could spell out the block manually, but I think it's way more intuitive to use the WordPress full site editor screen. So back in our dashboard, look under the Appearance menu and click on Editor. By default, it's going to take you to your home page template. We're not interested in that, so you can click the top left, click Templates, And we want to edit the single blog post template. So let's click on that. We don't actually need this paragraph block, so you could get rid of that if you want. With it empty, I just like to type a / because you can begin typing the block type you're interested in. But I'm interested in something called post title. So there you can see it available, post title. Let's click that. Maybe right below that, I want post content. So I'll just click that. So title, content. If I save this and then refresh the front end, well, as you might have guessed, there is the specific title for this blog, and here is the actual content. Now, that was simple enough because we're viewing the URL for one single individual blog post. But what if, for example, on our homepage URL, we wanted to show the 5 most recent blog posts or the 10 most recent blog posts? Well, let's try it out. So back on this screen, if we go to our templates list, just for a quick test, we can edit our index, sort of our homepage template. And imagine we wanted to display the 5 most recent blog posts right here. And we wanted their title, then their date, and then maybe an excerpt. So we can just add a new block here called query loop. So the query loop block, I like to choose this start blank option and maybe just choose title and excerpt. Now, in order to make sense of what's going on here, I think it's almost mandatory to click this icon right here. So that gives you a bird's eye view, and it makes nested blocks actually possible to understand and visualize. So we've got the query loop, and then inside the query loop, there's nested the post template, pagination. I don't want pagination, so I'll just click on that and click backspace or delete. So I've just got my post template that lives inside a query loop. Anything that lives inside of post template will be duplicated for however many posts we want to display. So if we wanted to display 5, let's click on the overall query loop block, and then we can click on this icon, display settings, and items per page, just bump it up to 5. Okay? Inside the post template, what if we wanted the date for the blog post to sit in between the title and the excerpt? So I just click on the title, click insert after, and for the block type right here, I would just say post date. Click that. We can click save. If we refresh the front end, now you might be thinking to yourself, whoa, are we never going to use PHP ever again? Does this mean that we can just use block types like this for all of our dynamic needs? No, the answer is no, no, no. We're still absolutely going to use PHP. The query loop block is incredibly basic. You cannot build custom powerful queries with it. So if you click on the query loop and then click on the settings icon, in this right-hand sidebar, you can see, if you scroll down, you can choose which post type you're querying for. So that's pretty cool. You could choose, whatever custom post type you want. You can choose if you're ordering by the newest or oldest, but that's really it. I mean, you can filter by category, but that's it. So there'd be no way to filter for relationships or meta values. Or if you think back to our actual fictional university website, remember, for example, this upcoming events area? Remember, we wrote a custom query that looks at today's date and then only shows events where not the post date, but the event date, which is a meta value, where it is greater than today's date, right? Upcoming events. So my point is, you would still need to absolutely write your own custom PHP to perform truly custom queries. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's not like PHP is now against the law in WordPress. And it's not as if avoiding PHP and using blocks for everything magically makes your site more modern or faster. Because even if you do use blocks for everything, WordPress is still 100% going to use PHP. Let me show you an example. So let's think about that post title block. If you dig into your WordPress installation, instead of going into WP content, if you go into WP includes and then go into the blocks folder, this has a lot of the core default built-in WordPress blocks. And if you scroll down, you'll see a file named posttitle.php. If you open that up in your text editor and go down to about line 23, you'll see the good old PHP function, get the title. And then below that, it's going to perform its own logic. Like, do you want to wrap it in a link? Do you want it to be a heading level 1, heading level 2? So it's controlling the HTML. It's actually calling the PHP function. There is no magic going on here. So remember earlier in the lesson when I promised I'd address how we as web developers can actually control the HTML of our theme? Well, you're looking at the answer right here. We are going to create our own custom block types ourselves instead of only relying on WordPress default core blocks. That way, we can still write our own custom queries and we can control the HTML output if we want to. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, but Brad, how does the new default 2022 theme, how does it work with basically zero PHP? And my answer to that is quite simple. So you can go ahead and open up the 2022 theme in VS Code and look through the templates. And the reason it's able to get by with basically zero custom PHP is because it's not doing anything custom. For example, if you dig into single HTML, it's literally just using WordPress core blocks. At no point does it have any need for custom queries, custom relationships, custom HTML output. So yes, if the website you're trying to build fits with that, sure, maybe this approach is great and you can start to use WordPress as a design tool instead of a content management system. But that is not the approach we've ever taken in this course. So where do we go from here? Well, in our very next lesson, we're going to continue to discuss this 2022 theme a bit. And more importantly, we'll actually start to begin real work on our block theme together. Anyways, let's keep our momentum rolling, and I will see you in the next lesson. Hello, everyone. In this lesson, we're going to talk about where we go from here. And what I mean is, we need to address the very notion of what a theme is, or what it can be, or what it should be in this new era of full-site editing and block themes. To explain the issues I'm trying to discuss here, let's talk a bit more about the default 2022 theme. So let's just open up that theme in our text editor. So in your WordPress installation folder, go into WP Content, Themes, and then here's the 2022 folder. Just open this up in your text editor. So if we dig into the templates folder and then open up maybe index.html, we see that the only thing in this file is default core WordPress blocks. Now, before we go any further in this lesson and I discuss my own personal philosophy of WordPress, I want to get it out of the way and say that there's nothing wrong with this approach. Yes, it may not align with the way that I use WordPress, and it may not align with the way that my non-developer clients want to use WordPress, but that's just a matter of personal preference. So I want to acknowledge that for a sizable percentage of people, this approach of using WordPress as a page builder tool, using the core blocks, this will be wonderful. And if these are the types of themes that you want to create, that's amazing. I think there will be plenty of people interested in using those types of themes. However, you don't need any guidance on how to create these types of themes. There's really nothing to learn. It's not as if the complexity of PHP is now gone and it's been replaced with tons of JavaScript complexity. There's really just no complexity of any variety now in these types of themes. You can dig through every file in this folder. You're really not going to find any PHP, any HTML, any CSS, or any JavaScript. It's literally just core default block comments and then maybe the teeny tiny bit of HTML that block would output. Now again, I'm not suggesting that that's bad. It's not. It's quite the opposite. I think this 2022 theme is amazing. My point is that it's simply not the type of theme that needs lessons and chapters explaining how to build it. You just jump into the WordPress editor and start combining different blocks together, providing a few intelligently chosen default values, both in the blocks themselves and in the theme.json file. Don't worry, we'll cover this file as we build our block theme together, but that's really it if you're just trying to build a theme like this. In fact, the majority of the lines of code in this theme actually live in the inc or includes folder, and then inside this patterns folder. So what in the world are block patterns? Well, they're really just like presets for blocks, or you can think of them sort of as like a tab trigger snippet in your text editor. A pattern is just a preset way of arranging blocks. But that's it. There's nothing custom going on. It's just more default core WordPress blocks, just arranged and combined in a certain way. If you've never seen a block pattern before, let me show you how they work right now. And the reason I want to show you this is because this is really a lot of the heavy lifting that the 2022 theme is doing. So even if we forget about this 2022 theme for a moment and we just think about WordPress itself, so for example, we have this really basic empty theme that we created in the previous video. And you and I definitely have not registered any custom block patterns yet. So even in this theme, if we go in to edit a blog post or page, maybe below this paragraph, if I try to add in a new block, if I use this tool, so instead of blocks, you can look under patterns. So WordPress by default has different patterns you can choose from. So if you scroll through this list, you'll see all sorts of different patterns. And we didn't register any custom ones. These just exist in WordPress. So image on solid color with description, you can click that and nothing magical just happened. It simply added in those blocks, so the HTML comments and a few preset values, it added it right into our post. And now when WordPress saves this, so if I click update to actually save that into the database, there's nothing dynamic or interesting going on. It doesn't have a reference that that's the pattern we used. It's literally just storing the HTML for these blocks. So there's no longer any connection between this and the pattern that created it. So for example, here's the database entry for that post. Here's the post content field. So there's the paragraph. And then if you scroll down, this is the code that the pattern inserted into the content. And there's no reference to the pattern that, the preset that inserted it. It's just the actual blocks that you would use. The columns block, the cover block. Is that a big deal? Is that a problem? Well, I don't know. That's for you to decide. I would never use this approach because now if a client used that pattern in 700 different posts or pages, there's no way for us as the developer to make a tiny adjustment to it in one place and have all 700 posts use the new updates, right? As soon as you insert a pattern like this, you are completely married to the output. Maybe for the types of websites you and your clients are building, that's not a problem. That's really up to you to decide. The reason I bring this up is just to let you know that that's really most of the heavy lifting that the 2022 theme is doing. So it's registering a bunch. So if you scroll through here, a bunch of, new block patterns. So you can click through them and look at what each one is doing, but really I'll give you a summary. It's just inserting core WordPress blocks in a certain way. So let's get back to the actual point of this video. If this is the approach you're interested in, if you want to build a theme similar to 2022, cool, congrats. You don't really need to learn anything else. You can close this video right now and just start experimenting in the WordPress editor screen, right? Because that's really all that's going on in every one of these files. However, and this is really the entire point of this video, if you're anything like me, you might be thinking to yourself, hey, I don't want to be 100% married to the core WordPress blocks. Or, hey, I don't want to be 100% married to the WordPress design system and the CSS that it outputs, right? What if you want to use Bootstrap or Tailwind CSS? Or what if you want to use Sass and write your own CSS? In those cases, you would need to be in control of the HTML structure that's being used. Or, hey, I need to be able to query for complex relationships based on meta values or other certain conditions, and the query loop block just isn't going to cut it. Or perhaps the biggest concern of all, hey, what if my website is going to have 2,000 pages or 5,000 pages, and what if I don't want every single piece of content on my site to be mixed together with presentation, with zero separation between data and design? And what if I have these 5,000 pages and I want to change the HTML that a certain block type uses? I don't want to have to go into all 5,000 pages manually and hit the update button 5,000 times. I just want to be able to update a code file once and have all 5,000 posts use my newest code. Well, the good news is that is possible using a modern block-based approach, but you do need to set things up in a particular way that might not seem super intuitive at first. Anyways, if you've had any of these thoughts, it means that you can't, at least not 100%, follow the 2022 theme approach of exclusively using core blocks and built-in style options. Right? We need to take matters into our own hands a bit if we don't want to be completely restricted to WordPress managing all HTML and CSS for us. So where do we get started? Well, we're building a block theme, so let's start breaking down our website in terms of blocks. Remember, our goal was to convert the fictional university theme into a modern block-based theme. So right now, let me go ahead and switch back to the traditional fictional university theme. So under Appearance, let me switch back to Fictional University. So this is not a block theme. This is a traditional theme. And remember, our goal together, step by step, is to convert this into a block theme. So what should our first step be? Well, let's just start breaking this design up into blocks. So I think our first step should be to turn this top banner area into its own block. So this banner block will not include this content, the navigation and the logo. It will just be the background image and this text and button content here. I think this will be a good first block to build. The idea is that we want this content to be very easy to edit. So we're going to take full advantage of the modern editor, the block-based approach, the what you see is what you get, click and type approach, and it should be a great bit of practice. Now, before we jump into that, I do want to say that I'm well aware you could create this layout and design using the core default WordPress blocks, right? Through a combination of the WordPress cover block and the headline block and the buttons block, you could create something that looks very, very similar to this. But that's not the point. The point is, what if you had a really complex and custom bespoke design? Something that was way more complicated than this in terms of visual design. The point is, how would you turn that into your own block, right? If you don't want to use the WordPress core blocks, sometimes you need to take matters into your own hands. So don't worry so much about the way that this looks, because this does look simplistic in terms of visual design. We're focused on how to take matters into our own hands. And that's exactly what we're going to learn how to do in the next lesson. I think it's going to be a ton of fun to start this journey of converting this theme into a modern block theme. So let's keep our momentum rolling, and I will see you in the next lesson.